me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong, if I'm accurate or if I'm not. Do you guys feel like you guys are kind of being overlooked, or that there's a little disrespect coming your way, especially from a team that was just in the championship last year?
We doing everything they talk about. You know I'm everything a boss about. Not putting work and gotta toss them out. I'm really biting, they just barking out. I'm really riding, they just parking now. His street, what to talk about. See the big H when I'm walking out.
Whoa. Before we start this interview right now, don't forget to like this show, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate your support at Athletes Forum and supporting base coverage. We'll continue to bring you more content coming soon. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Base Coverage presented by Athletes Forum. I'm your host, Jamal Clay, and today we have, a special one today. We got, Assistant Coach of the Year of the Hamburg Sea Devils of last season in the ELF. We got Coach Kendral Ellison. What's going on, boss? How you doing, man?
Man, I can't call it, man. How you doing? It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Most definitely, man. Thank you for the time. It's been a crazy all season. We'll dive into it a little bit. But one of the things that I wanted to, get right into the interview with you is that, reflecting on, since the league started last year, right? From, when the league was announced, when the teams were announced, when you realized that there was going to be a team in Hamburg all the way to the championship game. From your perspective, what's one word that describes the season last year?
Hectic, but hectic in a good way. You can talk about hectic in a bad way, hectic in a good way. It was definitely in a good way. Coming out of COVID, not knowing what to expect. Somebody saying they want to create a new league, they want to bring back these old NFL Europe type franchises. Hamburg Sea Devils again. I've been in Hamburg for some years. I've been hearing about the Sea Devils. And everybody talking about 2.0, this, that, and also knowing that the success that the last Hamburg Sea Devils had. It was a grind, man. It was a grind that I don't think anybody expected, but it was surprisingly hectic in a positive way because it gave us all, anybody that was involved in it, it gave us all something that we had been wanting. For me as an American myself, it gave me something that football just hadn't been able to really give me over here. Because it became an opportunity to hold everybody accountable and do it on a non-hobby type basis. And just like you said, post-corona, post-COVID, none of us, I ain't know what to expect, but I'm like, hey, I'm with it. I'm along for it. And I've always wanted to create something special in Hamburg. So we were able to do that.
It's crazy that, and I say it all the time, that as big as this league is starting to get and picking up steam and stuff like that, that it started during still like a COVID year. So for them to get through that, the sky's almost the limit at that point. As we continue to talk about like last season, stuff like that, for those who don't know, you kind of manifest the, in terms of like the season that the Sea Devils are going to have. Heading into week 1 last year, you did a feature on the Athletes Forum, and some of your ending words or kind of like the last paragraph, which we'll throw on the screen right now. You talked about how, back in 2007, in the last World Bowl, it was, Hamburg versus Frankfurt, which Hamburg ultimately, got the win. And we fast forward a couple of weeks down the road, and now in the first championship game of the ELF, we have the two teams that ended, the last World Bowl with the Hamburg Sea Devils and the Frankfurt Galaxy. So you kind of manifest this whole thing happening. Obviously it didn't go, the way you guys wanted to, but, reflect on that game in terms of like, was that moment bigger because of the history between the two teams and because it was the first championship in the game? Like, kind of reflect a little bit on that game last year.
Man, it's crazy because I remember that. I remember when we did that and that write-up and all. And that was the whole thing about when this new league created, Frankfurt, Hamburg, as the last World Bowl game, all this type of stuff. People used to tell us about it. Coach Nummy, who was around that time and doing that, he zoomed as well, all these guys. So I knew the history. I was nowhere in Europe at that time, but I knew the history of it. Did I think it would come into fruition like that? Definitely. You can't write it up any better.
Yeah.
You can't. For the game to go as it did as well. And if I recall, that game back in 2007 was very close as well. To have it written up like that, you can't write it up. That was just the football god, so to say, that helped this league, and what that championship game was.
Yeah.
There was no better advertisement for football in Europe than that, other than the Super Bowl, But for European football, being in Dusseldorf in front of 20,000+, over 500,000 watching it on TV some way, somehow, and then having a game like that, you had two teams who had been, battling for the top spot, throughout the whole season. Frankfurt, who had a stellar defense, we end up putting up damn near 500 yards of offense on them. You would think that it would come down to two defenses, and our defense and their defense, and it came down to offense, and it came down to 1 yard, man. That's what it boiled down to, So I think it was a big moment because it's the next moment. It was a championship game, and that's what we had to kind of put in our head and put in our guys' head, forgetting we want to create our own legacy, and we want to talk about now, but we can't be what they did back in 2007 means absolutely nothing no more. We got to do what we do. It's nice, it's cute, it's for the story, it's good and all, but excuse my language, but if they win it and we don't win it, then it don't mean nothing, So, but at the end of the day, man, it was a great game, great for the league, great for the players. And it's definitely something that it still burns. Put it like that.
Yeah, most definitely. It's crazy. It's like the old adage. It's a game in inches, and a game like that came down to 1 yard. So it doesn't matter what happens from the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter. Ultimately, it usually always comes down to what's going on in the trenches throughout the game, and ultimately, it ended the way it did. But I mean, for the league starting last year, what a beautiful way for it to end it. Not just the atmosphere of the stadium, but for the two teams that were in it. I mean, it kind of jump-started what ended up being a crazy offseason, or what was the start of what, all these signings and news and, movement and stuff like that. Obviously you guys lost a lot of guys on both sides of the ball, offense and defense. And you recently just had a scrimmage against Berlin, who you guys are going to end up playing week 1. How is this year's Hamburg team going to be different than last year's Hamburg team? Or excuse me, let me rephrase that. What's the biggest difference between last year's Hamburg team and this year's Hamburg team?
The biggest difference, I think, not just for Hamburg, but for everybody in this league, you have a true offseason, man. You have a true offseason where teams can really recruit. That's the thing. You can really recruit not only your American and import talent, but your homegrown talent. Last year, coming out of COVID, you're taking guys based on what you knew a couple years ago, about how a guy played at Kiel, how a guy played with the Hamburg Huskies or any other team in Northern Germany or in these teams' respective areas. This year, you have an opportunity to have an off season, and what we always say, get the right people on the bus, get the wrong people off the bus. And not saying nobody was wrong, but it's just an old saying of, hey, we got to find what works for you, what works for your team. And we were able to really recruit and not just kind of take what was there, which we took what was there, and it was some great quality athletes. But now we can kind of sit in and say, does this guy really fit our mold? Does this guy fit our culture, what we're trying to do? And having that off season, I think you're going to see a lot of teams be a lot stronger than they were last year, because they had that opportunity to recruit, to build, to create a culture, and not kind of be pushed into something to say, hey, let's get this thing going. But now, hey, now you got year 1 out of the way. That now we know what to expect.
You're not microwaving the process.
Exactly. And then you also have a lot more players that sit there and were maybe on the fence and like, I don't know about the league in year 1. They see what it was and they're like,
trying to come back.
So that makes life easy as a recruiter for sure.
Yeah, most definitely. Obviously what we mentioned before, a lot happened this offseason, right? Adding new teams, media coverage, covering all aspects of the league with new teams signing and stuff like that. It's been a little quiet for Hamburg. Like, obviously you guys re-signed a lot of nice guys, or guys you had last year. You got some coaching changes, and you made a couple big signings. But in terms of like the media coverage and tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong, if I'm accurate or if I'm not. Do you guys feel like you guys are kind of being overlooked, or that there's a little disrespect coming your way, especially from a team that was just in the championship last year?
I wouldn't say that much. I think you got to kind of get out the social media and the media coverage. Like, you can, it's cute. That's good. It's fun. Yeah. But, it can sell you dreams and sell you things that's not there. Sure. We're about, hey, we're going to put that work in. We know what Instagram is. We got a social media team that's probably the best in the league. Our social media page is probably one of the top in the league for sure. But if you get caught up in that stuff, man, then you get mixed up in what's really what. And what's really what is, hey, let's put our boots down. Let's go to work. Let's grind. We want to get back to that championship game. And we know how it feels to lose that game. So for our thing is, the media coverage. We made some big signings. So the guys we got are some good quality football players. The Germans that we re-signed, some of the Germans we brought in, in my eyes, we're a lot better than we were last year. A lot more explosive than we were last year defensively. We're a lot bigger and a lot faster than we were last year. But people don't see that because it's just not out there pushing it to be shown like that. They'll see it in week 1 and beyond. That's sure. That's all I can sit there and tell you. I just think of just speaking on it. We just think about our D line that we have. It looked like Division I football players. Everybody 6'4", 6'5", and above, pushing 280 to 300 here or there, other than one guy, and he's just a freaking wall in his wheel. But it's little things. Like we did a good job recruiting. Got some good coaches on board. Unfortunately, Coach Nummy had to leave us, but Coach Jones coming in, he fits what we do. He fits who we are. He fits that Hamburg personality. So I wouldn't say we're being overlooked. I think a lot of people, we were overlooked last year. People are thinking Hamburg football, it's always been kind of a doormat of even the GFL. So they're not going to be that good. They're not going to do that. And even when we got to the championship, everybody thought it was a fluke that we were as good as we were. And we just going to get blown out that game. No, like you said, game of inches, 1 yard here or there. It could have went in a whole nother way, One decision here or there. It could have been us as champions. So, you got to cut out all that noise, man. And I think, after last season, we got caught up in some of that noise. We got caught up in feeling like, hey, we're better than what we really were at a point in time. And then I think we went down to Frankfurt and they smacked us in the mouth and had a little reality check right there. So the one thing we're doing this year is, hey, stay off that, don't get on these Mimi's page, all this social media here and there, because everybody's going to talk. Everybody's going to talk. The only person that matter, only people that matter are the people that's in-house, the people that's going to work with us day in and day out. And just let them talk at the end of the season. That's the main thing.
Most definitely. As a former defensive back, one thing I do appreciate about, your defense is your guys mimic who you are. Like if I'm watching the game, I see a madman screaming, yelling, but has a lot of passion, and that's what your defense plays with. So, and it reflects. Obviously, you were a top 2 defense, and obviously their performance on the field, reflect who you were, and ultimately you got assistant coach of the year last year in the league. As this league continues to grow, obviously, we recently just added 3 teams. There's probably going to be a 4th before 2023, and maybe 4 more the following year. Not yet confirmed, but there's growth happening within the league. So as this league grows, you personally, do you have aspirations of possibly becoming a head coach in the league? And I'm not saying that you want to proactively or you're aggressively trying to leave Hamburg. Personally, we met way back in the day. I know you've been in Hamburgs probably since the day you were born, but for you, do you think that you can ultimately or would ultimately want to be a head coach in this league one day?
Man, you hit it on the head. The league is growing. The league is growing, and I decided to leave a head coaching job with the Huskies to join this league as a linebacker coach last year. Eventually, I got the defensive coordinator role through the season. So for me, most definitely, I do want to be a head coach. And in this league, it would be great. But ultimately, is a stepping stone. If it's not this league, then to get me back stateside to climb that ladder. That's my ultimate goal right there.
Gotcha.
But I'm living in the moment, living in the present right now. I had a lot of people ask me that. That's a crazy question. They're like, hey man, like, why ain't you the head coach? Why they ain't give it to you? Everything is strike when it's time to strike. As much as I'm passionate about the game and I feel like I put in more work than anybody else, it's still a lot for me to learn. It's still a lot for me to grow. I look back at that championship game and that last drive, and there's things, I would have done differently. Now, hindsight is always 2020. I mean, every coach makes that mistake. You know that as a player, as a coach, you can always sit there and say shoulda, woulda, coulda, But for me, is Hamburg is home, man. A lot of these guys I've played with, I've played against, or either coach when they were youth football players, So I have a different connection with these guys, and that's why I can get them to do certain things, and they understand me. And they understand me as a player. I was the same way as a player. And that's where I have my success at. So, yeah, that whole coach of the year thing and everything is nice and everything. But without those guys, then you chalk that up for absolutely nothing, because I got some talent out there. I got some football players out there with high IQ and people that just want to play together, So if I can continue to get them to follow and continue to be a leader of men and continue to develop and get the most out of them, then that head coach opportunity is going to come. Who knows if it's going to be next year, the year after. Like you said, there's different franchises coming within the league. So, I would expect some opportunities to come. But at the end of the day, Hamburg is Hamburg. And that's why I see me sitting down and saying, hey, if I'm in this league, then unless I can bring a few championships to this program, like I'm cool on that, So, but for me, I'll check my ego at the door any day, So if you can bring somebody in that I can learn under and learn from, I'm all for it, I'm all for it. So that's my whole thing there.
Most definitely. Well, before we wrap this up, I just got one more question, and it's, we're about roughly 3 weeks out from week 1 where you guys open up against Berlin. This is going to be, a totally different team than last year. And I'm not asking you to predict any score or say what you're going to do, whatever. But what's one thing you think people like me that are covering the league will say, about the Hamburg Sea Devils after week 1?
Oh, man. First and foremost, let me just speak on Berlin. Berlin is a lot better football team. We got to see them yesterday. They're going to be a lot better this year. Jock out there is still a dog. Joe at quarterback is doing his thing. And the coaches have those guys really getting better. They're a much better football team. So I expect a lot more out of them this year. But just as they got better, I feel like we got better, So I think, as you and other people on the outside watching it, it's going to be like, damn, these guys are explosive. These guys are explosive. They're fast. They're big. And you'll see, it's that adage, you play week by week. Each game, the next game is the most important game. But we got big goals. So everything up into Klagenfurt, you're in our way pretty much. So, like I say, we want all the smoke, no matter who you is, where you at, where we play. With that defense and how I feel about it. And with the offense we got and the firepower now, I told them boys, hey, just spot us a touchdown. Spot us one touchdown, and we'll do the rest after that, And that's just me. That's the attitude we got and the mentality we got. And it's going to take work. And some people will be able to do some things against us. But I think now we have an offense that really complements the defense, and the defense that complements the offense as a whole, as a whole. So you're going to see a team that's hungry, a team that didn't take losing in that championship lightly, So for us, it's personal. Like I said, all this other social media stuff going on, y'all can keep that. Like I said, y'all can have that. You can make a meme out of everything I'm saying right now. But when y'all line up against us, all that talking got to stop then. Now we got to play ball. We're going to see how bad you want it, how bad we want it. So,
yeah, ain't nothing better than, putting the pads together and, seeing who actually wants it. So, hey,
that's it.
But I appreciate you coming on, my man. It's been a pleasure. Always good chopping it up with you. Wish you nothing but the best this season. Not only me, but everyone who's looking at the league is, excited for this league, and we're looking forward to week 1. I appreciate your time, and again, this won't be the last time we chop it up.
No doubt.
We'll definitely talk soon, man.
Man, hey, I appreciate you having me, man. Keep up the great work, and you already know I'm following you. All right.
All right, boss. Appreciate you.
Beat me up, Scotty. Hard work, they don't know about it. Hard work, they don't know about it.